This is Matador News, and these are today's headlines. ISIS claims responsibility for Tunis attack. Negotiators close to nuclear agreement with Iran. Virginia students protest against violent arrests. Welcome to Matador News. I'm Joanna Guzman.
And I'm Trevino. ISIS is claiming responsibility for yesterday's fatal attack on Tunisia's National Museum. 23 people were killed, including 2 of the attackers. Authorities arrested 9 people today. The Tunisian Prime Minister says the terrorists' aim was to destroy tourism industry and the Tunisian economy in general. The Bardo Museum was the easiest target because it was the most visited by tourists, but did not have strong security. Italian President Sergio Mattarella says ISIS is extremely dangerous.
This seems to me to be the highest level of barbarity there can be. ISIS, like all fundamentalist terrorism, is the new, true danger for civilization and democracy and human rights.
The day of the attack is now known as Black Wednesday. Tunisia's culture minister said the museum would reopen back to the public next week.
Just in time for their March 31st deadline, negotiators in Geneva have a draft of a nuclear deal between the U.S. and Iran. The deal forces Iran to cut the amount of hardware used to make an atomic bomb by 40% for at least a decade. In return, the West will lift some of its economic sanctions. Deputy Secretary of State Antony Blinken says all fronts should be covered when trying to cover a nuclear program.
Clearly, that calls not only for sustaining the existing pressure, but adding to it in an effort to get them to rethink that very unfortunate position, and indeed to bear down on all fronts in its efforts to acquire technology for a nuclear program.
Officials say the deal imposes limits on the number of centrifuges Iran can operate to enrich uranium in the process of making nuclear weapons. Both sides are closing in on a gap of 6,000 centrifuges, a drop from 600 in recent weeks. The full deadline to reach an agreement is at the end of June.
About 1,000 University of Virginia students are protesting, demanding justice for a student who was severely injured during an arrest. The student Martise Johnson appears in a photo with a bloody face while being held down by an officer. Johnson's lawyer says Johnson was charged with obstruction of justice without force and public intoxication. Johnson's lawyer says his client is a 20-year-old third-year student at the University of Virginia, majoring in Italian and Media Studies.
Longmont, Colorado police says a pregnant woman responding to a Craigslist ad was left for death by a woman who stabbed and cut out her fetus. Police officers say 34-year-old Danielle Lane is in custody for attacking the 7-month pregnant woman who responded to an ad offering baby clothes for sale.
When they arrived on scene, they heard a female screaming.
Police say the suspect took the fetus to Longmont United Hospital, where she claimed the fetus as a miscarriage. The victim was rushed to the same hospital where she had surgery and is expected to survive. Police were able to arrest the suspect at the hospital. Lane faces charges for attempted first-degree murder, first-degree assault, and child abuse resulting in death.
7 people are still in the hospital after a car crash in Lancaster. The crash happened during a big thunderstorm at 6:45 last night. 4 children were waiting on the street corner when 3 cars collided, including a Maserati. All 4 children, including one in critical condition, were taken to the hospital, as were the 3 drivers. The driver of a Maserati is still in critical condition. It is unclear whether or not the thunderstorm had anything to do with the crash.
Governor Brown and legislative leaders have announced an emergency drought package. The proposed legislation accelerates more than $1 billion in drought relief bond spending. The 2-bill package will provide immediate aid to communities with water shortages, money for emergency water, fish and wildlife protection, and groundwater management. Most of the proposal would be covered by spending already approved by voters for water and flood projects. The Democratic State Senate president says California cannot wait for the June budget to allocate money for the drought relief, and no aid is coming from the Congress. The bill will need majority approval from the state legislature.
And now let's go to Sara Vong with the latest in entertainment.
Thank you, Eden. Protesters are boycotting outside the Dolce & Gabbana's London store. This comes after the fashion designers made a remark against same-sex couples raising children and against babies born through in vitro fertilization. Domenico Dolce says test tube babies are unnatural. He also says every child needs a mother and a father. Protesters are holding up signs saying homophobia is not fashionable. The designer's comments drew attention from singer-songwriter Elton John. John and his husband have 2 children who were conceived through IVF. John fired back at the designers through Instagram, saying how dare they refer to his beautiful children as synthetic. Dolce & Gabbana has yet to comment. The Fox hit drama Empire gets high ratings during its season finale. Over 16 million viewers tuned in to watch the 2-hour finale last night. This makes a new high for Fox Television. While the show was airing, the hashtag Empire finale became a worldwide trending topic on Twitter. This is the most tweets the show has ever received. The online company Hulu just signed a deal with Fox, allowing Hulu subscribers to access the entire first season online. This isn't the end for Empire fans. Fox Network has announced plans for a second season. And now let's go to October Primavera with the latest in health.
Thank you, Sarah. The fast food ban in South Central Los Angeles has not yielded the results the city wanted. In 2007, officials passed a restriction on freestanding fast food restaurants in an effort to reduce obesity. But a new report from the Rand Corporation says obesity in the area has actually gone up since the rule has been in place. 17 new fast food restaurants have opened since the ban has been enforced, but none of them have been freestanding, so they were not in violation of the regulations. Nutritionists say there is not going to be a one fix-all for this problem. Phoenix Air is currently the only airline equipped to fly Ebola patients. The company's specially designed plane has many components, including an air filter unit, a liner that keeps fluids from getting into the aircraft, and the essentials like a stretcher and a communication system. The aircraft has made 40 trips since August. It has traveled to many places in Europe and the United States. Phoenix officials say other organizations, including the U.S. government, are building similar systems. And now, let's go to Sara Vong with the latest in business.
Thank you. Starbucks is under fire for its Race Together campaign. The company has started writing the hashtag Race Together on its cups in efforts to get people talking about racial issues. Critics have flooded social media, saying a morning coffee house is not the time or place to discuss such controversial issues. Company CEO Howard Schultz is standing behind the campaign.
This is not about the stock price or PR or marketing. I think this is a bigger issue, and that is that companies, I believe, have a deeper responsibility today to their people and the communities we serve, and I'm trying to use our scale for good.
But the message does not seem to be getting across. Some customers are saying it's just advertising, or baristas trying to start a dialogue with someone who just wants to get out of there quickly. Cab companies all across California are suing the ride-sharing app Uber. The suit claims Uber is using false advertising by claiming to be one of the safest rides on the roads. Its drivers do not have to go through a fingerprint criminal background check. Uber dismisses these claims and says its background check process is rigorous. UberX rates are estimated 40% less expensive than regular cabs, and increasingly dipping into the cab company profits. And now let's go to Matador News reporter Stephanie Stanziano in the newsroom with the latest from CSUN's campus.
Thanks, guys. Journalism students got to enjoy the presence of journalism professionals at today's career fair. Students came to the USU to hear panelists give them their personal experiences and the advice that they feel will help them succeed. Pete Camarillo says he was very excited to see the variety of people.
And I thought the panel today was very interesting. They brought 3 different perspectives, from online to editing to public relations.
After the panel, students were eager to get to speak to the professionals to give them their resumes. Chris Ender is the Executive Vice President of Communications for CBS.
I always enjoy talking to students. You know, students are at a very interesting moment in time in which you know, they're making the transition to the next big chapter in their life, and it involves a lot of big decisions about how to market themselves out there. And it's not easy, and it's a daunting experience, but everybody goes through it.
His final advice to students is don't get discouraged. And now let's go to October Primavera with the latest on sports.
Thank you, Stephanie. Today is the first official day of March Madness. Fans who do not have a television can download the March Madness Live app and stream all the games that will air on CBS. 2 games are airing tonight, Texas versus Butler and Kentucky versus Hampton. Kentucky is favored to win, but will not be easy with teams like Gonzaga and Villanova. The Cal State Northridge women's basketball team will face Stanford in the NCAA tournament. This is the 2nd consecutive year the Lady Matadors make it to the playoffs to join March Madness. The game will take place in Palo Alto this Saturday and will also be aired on ESPN3 at 6:30 p.m. That's all for sports. Now back to Eden.
Thank you for watching Matador News. I'm Eden Trevino.
And I'm Joanna Guzman. Thank you for watching.